Hey everybody, it's Mike here from the WeWrench Shop and welcome to episode 8. I literally just got finished pulling off the first half of the cylinder head of the M5. This is pretty much where we're at right now. The first half of the cylinder head is off. Looking pretty good there. Just a little teaser for what's to come in episode 8. We continue with disassembly in preparation to get the engine out. We're gonna do a lot more under the hood, and I think we'll get to the undercarriage of the car too. Also guys, check out our YouTube shorts. We have some great short videos of just random things I've done to the car, plus some humorous stuff that's getting a lot of traction all across the internet. So make sure that you stay tuned. If you find this video informative or entertaining, make sure you like and subscribe. With the engine wiring harness free and removed, I'm going to start taking a look in this area. And again, I'm looking for anything that connects the engine to the chassis. Here's a cooling line. That's going to the overflow tank. That's going to have to be disconnected. The electrical does not have to be disconnected because remember, the harness is coming out with the car. So this harness just goes and routes here and then goes basically underneath the intake and connects to that main harness over here. So there's no need to unplug any of this stuff. All that stuff is going to stay. Here's another cooling line going to the overflow bottle. We're going to disconnect that. And then we have to manage the AC lines on this side. We have to do the same thing on the power steering side. The supply and return lines that are going to the pump. Actually, the only one we have to manage on that side is the SLS supply line. That's going to come off completely. So then once we do that, we have to disconnect the steering U-joint because that connects the steering box to the car, and the box is mounted to the subframe, which is going to come out. So that's the next step. Start with this small line. And then we'll go to this bigger one. I'm going to undo it from the overflow bottle too, because it's just one less thing that I'll have to tie out of the way when taking the engine out. I'm going to undo it from the overflow bottle too, because it's just one less thing that I'll have to tie out of the way when taking the engine out. Next thing that we're going to do is we are going to disconnect the supply and return lines off of the AC compressor. Here and here. We're going to use a little heat and penetrating oil for those. There's an electrical connection that runs up this way. There's a ground strap here. It has to be undone. And but first we got to get this belt out of here. And the way that you do that on an E34 is you loosen up this nut, and there's sort of like a mechanism that rides on teeth that tensions the belt. So I can give you a way better shot by lowering the vehicle and just going straight through the front here. Do you see this mechanism? Do you see how there's these teeth? Well, there's corresponding teeth on this bolt here, and when you move that, that's what sort of allows the part to pivot and then put tension on the belt. So once we loosen that, the tension is actually done by the pump here, I think. Let's see. And what you do is you rotate, you loosen this front bolt, and then there's more flats right behind that. And what you do is you can rotate that with a larger socket. That bolt that I just loosened was a 13 millimeter, by the way. Looks like the larger one, let's try 19. Yeah, 19 will work. So then what you can do is do you see what happens there? I'm gonna go the other way. So that's how the belt tensioners on E34s work. All right, every single ancillary accessory has a setup like this. There's one for, move the camera so I can show you. Where's power steering? Power steering is below. Yeah, I can't see it. Here's a shot of the power steering tensioner. Same thing, it's at the very bottom. So here's for your reference. And then there's also one for the alternator right here, and they all work the same. A lot of times on older E34s, you will see those teeth break, either on the bracket or the nut. You know, just something to look out for. If you have a loose belt and then you're trying to do this and it won't tension, look for those broken teeth. So let's go back to this belt. As I move the pump in, that's that emissions pump I was speaking about. All right, so I have to go in more. And you gotta make sure that that bolt is all the way down, the inner part. There we go. Done. So just judging from experience here, I could really tell that these lines are going to be a problem. So I'm using the good old light heat. You don't want to get them cherry red. And then the old ATF and acetone mix. So this rear line is 22 millimeters. Oh, nice. Oh, I thought that was going to kill me. This is a 32. Good. AC line is now disconnected from the compressor. The other one is undone, but that hose is curved, so the hose connection will not lift off. So we don't want to force it because that can cause trouble. So now we're dealing with the electrical part of the compressor. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut the zip tie, this out of here. Then this plug is what all the compressor controls connect to. It's very greasy. Okay. We can tuck this harness out of the way, and that will come down with the compressor. And this we can also tuck up here. Because remember, when that engine's being lowered, you want everything out of the way. So I'm returning my attention to that other hose coming off the compressor. What I did was I pulled up on it and screwed it some more, and now that one is detached. So what we can do is we can swing that line out of the way. That's going to the condenser. We can get that out of the way, like so. And we can make sure that stays out of the way so we can drop the engine. That's what the compressor lines look like now. I want to get this plastic piece out of my way. I just don't like it. It's got those push pins here, and here. So let's wrestle with those a little bit. I might have to manhandle this like I did when I took the top part off. Yeah. Look at that, huh? It's cooperating. There we go. Next thing I want to do is I want to get this alternator cooling duct out of here. So I'm going to use a short flathead. Sorry if I'm in the way. It's just a hose clamp. Again, we're creating clearance. We're creating clearance. There we go. And then the other thing that I want to do is I want to zip tie these oil cooler lines out of the way. We'll just maybe fasten them to the belt. Again. Getting back to creating clearance, I have this kind of floating here. I'm going to zip tie it out of the way. This is the next item on the list, the steering U-joint. This is a 13 millimeter here, and if we undo this, so now I'm counter holding the bottom with a stubby 13. There we go. I want to move to the back of the car and take the exhaust out. So the exhaust is held in at a couple points. Now mind you, this isn't the factory exhaust, but it does use the factory mounting points. So you can undo a 13 millimeter nut here, and there's also one up here. Gotta move the bumper out of the way a little bit. You can get to it with a socket with a universal on it. And on this Super Sprint, it's got a joint right here. These look like 5 millimeter Allens. So after we do that, there's a rubber mounting point here that has to come off. This is the center silencer, they call it. Rubber mount. Rubber mount. And then we're going to go to these flanges here. That should be just a nut and bolt. I have like a U-bolt flange there. That's not correct, by the way, at all. So looking forward to correcting that. Once we detach the back part from the cats, then the cats also just have a nut and bolt on 2 flanges here. Bumper side. This is loose. All right, now we have this final mount point. Once this one's off, should be able to get this thing loose. So that joint in the back is giving me a really hard time. It's kind of an unsafe situation because I don't have a pole jack here. So the back part is completely undone. What I'm going to do is I'm going to separate it here, and I'm going to pull it back this way. Onto this one. It's only been 2 years and 3,000 miles, 4,000 miles, so you can see how much these joints have deteriorated. So next thing that we have to manage is the oxygen sensor. From that angle you can't see the sensor, but you could see the wire. It goes like literally right up in here. There's a couple plastic 10 mils that you need to take down. I got one here, the other one is missing, so I zip tied it instead. So Cut the zip tie. That's what this cable is, by the way. And when you take this off, there's this chase that covers that cable up. And then you unhook it from this clip. And now the O2 sensor is free to come down to with the exhaust. Now the only other thing holding the exhaust in right now is this 13 that is bolted to that trans bracket. Can we see it? Yeah, there it is. So once I take this 13 down, I should be able to get the cats out of here. All right, let's give it a shot. So now I can turn my attention to the rest of the exhaust. I really want to try and separate it. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that though. I have to be careful here. It's a two-man job. If I slide this forward, I'm bending the tabs on the mounts. I don't know if I showed you those. Okay, this one's going to be free. Oh, there we go. I need a pole jack is what I need. Got it.